Maplewood. A name that evokes images of serenity and peace, a place where time seems to slow down, allowing its residents to savor every moment. A picturesque name for a picturesque town. Nestled away from the hustle and bustle of city life, Maplewood is a sanctuary for those seeking a simpler, quieter existence. Rows of charming houses, each with a manicured lawn and a picket fence, stand as a testament to the town's commitment to maintaining its idyllic appearance. Every home, a piece of a larger, harmonious puzzle. Neighbors knew each other, exchanging pleasantries over steaming mugs of coffee on crisp autumn mornings. The bonds formed over these simple interactions were the threads that wove the community together. Children played in the streets, their laughter echoing like wind chimes in the warm summer breeze. These streets were their playground, a safe haven where imagination could run wild. Maplewood was a haven, a sanctuary from the chaos of the outside world. Here, the noise and stress of modern life seemed like a distant memory, replaced by the gentle hum of nature and the comforting routine of daily life. It was the kind of place where nothing ever happened, or so they thought. Beneath the surface of this tranquil town, there were stories waiting to be told, secrets waiting to be uncovered. The heart of Maplewood resided not in its charming aesthetics, but in its inhabitants. Each person, a unique thread in the tapestry of the town's history. They were the lifeblood of the community, their stories interwoven into the very fabric of the town. From the friendly waves exchanged on morning walks to the shared laughter at community gatherings, these moments defined Maplewood. There was Mrs. Henderson, the baker, whose apple pies were legendary. Her kitchen was the heart of her home, filled with the warm, inviting aroma of freshly baked goods. Old man Fitzwilliam, who sat on his porch every day, reading his newspaper and watching the world go by. His presence was a constant, a reassuring figure in the ever-changing landscape of the town. And then there was Lila, a young woman who'd recently moved to Maplewood, drawn by its promise of peace and quiet. She was searching for a place to call home, a place where she could find herself. Lila had always been an observer, a silent spectator in the grand play of life. She found beauty in the ordinary, in the small moments that others often overlooked. She found solace in the mundane, in the rhythm of everyday existence. The gentle sway of the trees, the distant sound of children playing, these were the things that brought her peace. The gentle hum of lawnmowers on a Saturday afternoon, the chirping of crickets as the sun began to set. These were the sounds that brought her comfort. They were the soundtrack to her new life in Maplewood. Maplewood, with its timeless charm and tranquil atmosphere, was the perfect stage for her quiet life. It was a place where she could finally breathe, where she could find her own rhythm. But even in paradise, shadows lurk. Beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect town, there were whispers of secrets, of stories untold, and in Maplewood, those shadows were beginning to stir. The tranquility of the town was about to be tested, and its residents would soon discover that even the most peaceful places have their mysteries. Lila lived in a quaint, two-story house on Willow Lane, a street known for its towering oak trees and vibrant flower gardens. The neighborhood was a picturesque slice of suburban life, where every house had a story and every garden was a testament to the care and love of its owner. Willow Lane was more than just a street. It was a community, a place where neighbors knew each other by name and shared their lives in small but meaningful ways. Lila's home was her sanctuary, a cozy nest filled with books, plants, and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. The living room, with its overstuffed armchairs and shelves lined with well-worn novels, was a haven of comfort and tranquility. The soft light filtering through the lace curtains added a touch of magic to the room, making it a perfect place for Lila to unwind after a long day. From her living room window, she had a perfect view of her neighbor's house, a stately Victorian manor known as Grayson Manor. The manor, with its grand architecture and sprawling gardens, stood as a silent witness to the passage of time. It was a house that had seen many seasons, each one leaving its mark on the weathered walls and creaking floors. Mr. Grayson, an elderly widower, had been a fixture in Maplewood for as long as anyone could remember. His presence was as much a part of the town as the old oak trees that lined the streets. He was a man of few words, his days spent tending to his beloved garden, a riot of color and fragrance that stretched across his sprawling lawn. Mr. Grayson was a man of few words, his days spent tending to his beloved garden. The garden was his pride and joy, a living tapestry of vibrant flowers and lush greenery. Each plant was a testament to his patience and care, and the garden itself was a reflection of his soul, a place of beauty and serenity amidst the chaos of the world. He was a man of few words, his days spent tending to his beloved garden, a riot of color and fragrance that stretched across his sprawling lawn. The garden was a sanctuary for Mr. Grayson, a place where he could lose himself in the simple pleasures of nature. The flowers, with their vibrant hues and delicate petals, were a source of endless fascination for him. The garden was a riot of color and fragrance that stretched across his sprawling lawn. Each flower seemed to tell a story, a tale of growth and renewal that mirrored Mr. Grayson's own journey through life. The garden was a place of solace, a refuge from the world outside where he could find peace and contentment in the simple act of nurturing life. Lila, in her quiet way, had always been fascinated by Mr. Grayson. She would often see him through her window. His tall, gaunt figure moving slowly amongst the flowers, his long white hair flowing in the breeze like wisps of smoke. There was a sadness in his eyes, a depth of pain that hinted at a life well lived and perhaps not always easy. She would often see him through her window, his tall, gaunt figure moving slowly amongst the flowers, his long white hair flowing in the breeze like wisps of smoke. There was a sadness in his eyes, a depth of pain that hinted at a life well lived and perhaps not always easy. Lila felt a kinship with the old man, a silent understanding that transcended words, his long white hair flowing in the breeze like wisps of smoke. There was a sadness in his eyes, a depth of pain that hinted at a life well lived and perhaps not always easy. Lila, who had known her share of sorrow, felt a kinship with the old man, a silent understanding that transcended words. She would often find herself watching him, lost in thought, as if trying to decipher the secrets hidden beneath his weathered features. There was a sadness in his eyes, a depth of pain that hinted at a life well lived and perhaps not always easy. Lila, who had known her share of sorrow, felt a kinship with the old man, a silent understanding that transcended words. She would often find herself watching him, lost in thought, as if trying to decipher the secrets hidden beneath his weathered features. Lila, who had known her share of sorrow, felt a kinship with the old man, a silent understanding that transcended words. She would often find herself watching him, lost in thought, as if trying to decipher the secrets hidden beneath his weathered features. Mr. Grayson, despite his solitary nature, was an integral part of the Maplewood tapestry. She would often find herself watching him, lost in thought, as if trying to decipher the secrets hidden beneath his weathered features. Mr. Grayson, despite his solitary nature, was an integral part of the Maplewood tapestry. He was a living reminder of the town's past, a bridge between generations, as if trying to decipher the secrets hidden beneath his weathered features. Mr. Grayson, despite his solitary nature, was an integral part of the Maplewood tapestry. He was a living reminder of the town's past, a bridge between generations. His presence, though quiet, was a comfort, a constant in a world that seemed to be spinning ever faster. Mr. Grayson, despite his solitary nature, was an integral part of the Maplewood tapestry. He was a living reminder of the town's past, a bridge between generations. His presence, though quiet, was a comfort, a constant in a world that seemed to be spinning ever faster. But Lila had noticed a change in her reclusive neighbor. He was a living reminder of the town's past, a bridge between generations. His presence, though quiet, was a comfort, a constant in a world that seemed to be spinning ever faster. But Lila had noticed a change in her reclusive neighbor. There was a new tension in his movements, a restlessness that hadn't been there before. His presence, though quiet, was a comfort, a constant in a world that seemed to be spinning ever faster. But Lila had noticed a change in her reclusive neighbor. There was a new tension in his movements, a restlessness that hadn't been there before. It was as if he was searching for something, or perhaps someone. But Lila had noticed a change in her reclusive neighbor. There was a new tension in his movements, a restlessness that hadn't been there before. It was as if he was searching for something, or perhaps someone. Lila couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change, something that would alter the fabric of their quiet street forever. The once vibrant garden, Mr. Grayson's pride and joy, was slowly losing its luster. Weeds began to sprout amongst the roses, their thorny vines choking the life out of the delicate blooms. The once meticulously pruned hedges grew wild and unruly, casting long, ominous shadows across the lawn. The air, once filled with the sweet scent of honeysuckle and jasmine, now carried a faint, earthy odor, the smell of decay and neglect. At first Lila dismissed it as mere forgetfulness, the inevitable toll that age takes on even the most diligent of gardeners. But as days turned into weeks, and the garden continued to deteriorate, a seed of unease began to grow in her heart. She would often see Mr. Grayson sitting on his porch, his gaze fixed and distant, his hands trembling slightly as he clutched a worn, leather-bound book. The lights in the house, which used to blaze brightly every evening, now flickered erratically, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Sometimes, late at night, Lila would hear strange noises coming from the house, muffled thumps and the sound of breaking glass. But whenever she looked out her window, everything would be still and silent. The house, once a beacon of warmth and life, was slowly transforming into a haunted mansion, its secrets hidden behind closed doors and drawn curtains. Word of Mr. Grayson's unusual behavior spread through Maplewood like wildfire in a dry forest. It started as a mere flicker, a small spark of curiosity that quickly grew into a roaring blaze of speculation and concern. The once peaceful town was now abuzz with rumors, each more outlandish than the last. People couldn't help but wonder what had caused such a drastic change in the reclusive man who had always kept to himself. At first, it was just hushed whispers exchanged over backyard fences and whispered speculations during coffee mornings. Neighbors would gather in small groups, their voices low but their eyes wide with intrigue. Theories ranged from the mundane to the fantastical, each one adding another layer to the growing mystery. Some said he was simply lonely, while others believed he was hiding a dark secret. Mrs. Henderson, the baker, swore she'd seen Mr. Grayson talking to himself in the grocery store, his voice a low, guttural mumble that sent shivers down her spine. She described how he seemed to be having a conversation with someone who wasn't there, his eyes darting around as if he were being watched. The encounter left her rattled, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Old man Fitzwilliam, his eyes narrowed in suspicion, claimed that the lights in the house weren't the only things flickering, that he'd seen strange shadows moving in the windows late at night. He recounted how he had been out for a late-night walk when he noticed the eerie glow coming from Mr. Grayson's house. The shadows seemed to dance and twist, as if they had a life of their own, and it sent a chill down his spine. Lila, caught between her growing concern and her desire to respect Mr. Grayson's privacy, found herself drawn deeper into the mystery. She had always been a curious soul, and the strange happenings at the Grayson house were too intriguing to ignore. She began to pay closer attention, noting every odd occurrence and trying to piece together the puzzle. Her mind raced with possibilities, each one more unsettling than the last. She would spend hours at her window, her eyes fixed on the house across the street, her mind racing with questions that had no answers. Was Mr. Grayson ill? Was he suffering from some sort of mental breakdown? The more she thought about it, the more questions arose. She wondered if there was something in his past that had triggered this change, or if there was an external force at play. Was he losing his mind? The thought was both terrifying and heartbreaking. Lila couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for the man, even as her fear grew. She imagined what it must be like to be trapped in a mind that was unraveling, to be haunted by thoughts and visions that made no sense. It was a fate she wouldn't wish on anyone. Or was there something more sinister at play, something lurking beneath the surface of their idyllic town? The idea that there could be a darker force at work was both thrilling and terrifying. It added an element of danger to the mystery, making it all the more compelling. Lila couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story, that the truth was hiding just out of reach. The more she observed, the more convinced she became that something was terribly wrong. She noticed small details that others might overlook, like the way the curtains in Mr. Grayson's house were always drawn, or the fact that he rarely left his home. Each new observation added to her growing sense of unease, and she couldn't help but wonder what was really going on behind those closed doors. The house, with its darkened windows and overgrown garden, seemed to radiate an aura of menace, a palpable sense of dread that sent chills down her spine. It was as if the very walls of the house were whispering secrets that were too terrible to be spoken aloud. The once charming home had become a symbol of fear, a place that no one dared to approach. Maplewood, once a sanctuary, was slowly transforming into a prison of fear and suspicion, its inhabitants trapped in a web of their own making. The sense of community that had once defined the town was eroding, replaced by an atmosphere of distrust and paranoia. People began to keep to themselves, afraid to speak out for fear of becoming the next target of the town's scrutiny. The whispers on the wind had become a chorus of fear, echoing through the streets and into the hearts of everyone who called Maplewood home.